So how do we use price action to help us with our trades in the stock market? And there are many meanings for price action. It could be just looking at the price itself. It could be looking at the candlestick as well. But essentially, we're just looking at the prices, right? There's no other indicators. There's no moving averages and all that. Just the price itself. And based on this price itself, how do we tell if a stock is going up? How do we build a trade plan out of these prices? Hey guys, Joey here, top tier MyZeal, trader in Philip Securities. And in this video, we'll be talking about price action. I'll share with you some stocks that have came to my watch list. But the key here is not about some top ideas or some stock picks here and there, because that changes every single day. But essentially, it's the strategy, kind of like the price action strategy that you can use, and you can apply it to any single stock, and you can form an opinion and a trade plan. Right, so let's go ahead to dive into this price action. We call it mastering price action. What do you want to look out for in any single chart? Let's go. Okay, so this is one of those stocks that have came into our watch list recently, and this stock is called UMS, right, listed in the Singapore Exchange. And first of all, when we look at price action, you can see right here, there are no indicators, there are no lines, it's very simple, it's just the prices itself. And first thing you want to do is to note the swinging high and low of a particular stock, right? What's the high, what's the low, have we found a bottom, are we kind of like moving sideways, just by looking at the highs and lows. So let me just go to explain to you. You can see right over here, that's where we got a high somewhere around like beginning of 2022. So that's kind of like the high point which you want to note, because that is where if we were to hit to that same level again, potentially we might see some selling or some profit taking, right? So based on these prices alone, that's where we could call this a resistance level. All right, so you can see right over here we can draw what we call a resistance line that would be like in red color, and the resistance would be a price level whereby selling can potentially come back again. So if we do hit to that level, I don't know when, but let's say we hit to that level again, that is where potentially you can also take some profit, right? Just like by looking at the previous prices over the past 1 or 2 years, right? You can gauge a price level by some selling can happen, right? So that's the first thing, right? The next thing would be to see if there's any bottom or any supports that have been found. As you can see right over here, for this stock, we have found support, right, over the past 1 year. So this is like what we call a rebound. You can see a couple of rebound, and we hit it to that level and rebound. So it's like 2 times, I think somewhere over here as well. So that's what we call a support level. And with that, we can draw another, what we call a support line. That would be like a green, let's say the green color, so that would be like a support line. In fact, we have also another support line that have came out right over here as well. You can see, right? So it kind of like hit it to the bottom, rebounded, but as we rebounded, we were consolidating here a little bit, right? So we found a higher support. So that's another price action to take note, right? Has the support level actually gone higher, or has it like went below and found a even lower support? For example, this is support and it might consolidate and pump, right? It goes lower, it consolidate, pump, it goes lower. So the support actually gets broken and goes lower, right? So that is not a good thing, right? That shows that this stock is weak. But if we were to see the support holding, and not only holding, and we actually go to a higher support, right? We form a higher low. So the low went from here to here. Does it make sense, right? So it's a higher low, it's a higher support. That could be a sign of strength. And you see the support actually went a little bit higher as well, right? Started to see a little bit of consolidation right here, from here to here to here. Does it make sense, right? So that's where we form a higher support along the way. That could show that, well, this stock is seeing some sign of strength in the short term. It's not like going down and down and breaking support, but essentially buyers are prepared to come out to defend prices, defend this stock at a higher level, at a higher price, and they're willing to buy at a higher price. That's the reason why it could actually trade at a higher price or consolidate at a higher support level. All right, so this is the first thing, right? So you can see the support is getting higher. So that's the first thing about this stock. It looks quite good in the short term, and we can also see like over the past like 1-2 years. So that was the resistance level I've drawn right over here. But can you see that in terms of the price action as well, just by looking at the prices, we could have another resistance level. Look at this, right? This was a level, we kind of like near it, came down. Same thing over here, we touched, we came down. Same thing somewhere over here as well. We kind of like hit it there. And you can see like these 3 areas just by looking at the prices over the past like 2 years is where selling has happened. And not only selling has happened, and then we went higher, but selling has happened and we traded down. Look at this, down. Same thing, we hit it down, rebounded a little bit, but essentially that's where profit taking has happened. All right, and based on this, 3 areas of prices whereby selling have happened, we can draw another resistance line. All right, we can draw what we call a resistance line that will be somewhere over here. I think somewhere over here, right over here, that will be a resistance. Same thing, it's a price level whereby some selling can come back. So if it hits to that level, you could also lock in some profit because it might retrace back down a little bit. All right, so that level I think would be around that 1.35. I think somewhere around 1.35, 136. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we are just not able to get above that resistance level. All right, so the first thing here is that, as I mentioned, right, we have formed higher lows. So short term, it looks quite good. In fact, we can also draw another support level. As I say, right, we have found a higher support. So now this would be what we call a support level. So it's pretty much like moving, swing up, swing down, swing up, down, up. It might go down, it might go up again. But that is pretty much the range. But you can see that based on this range, we kind of get an understanding of where this stock is right now in terms of the support and resistance, from like maybe about 120, so 120 to about 135, right? So that's the range, right? So based on this range, we can kind of gauge if we were to break this resistance, like look at this, right? As mentioned, this resistance at 135, right? It has been like almost 2 years below it, right? So there's a level whereby a lot of sellers are there, and we can expect selling there. But what happens is one day, right? We're not too sure when, right? It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be next month, it could be next month. But one day, if that resistance, that sellers that have been holding for the past 2 years finally give up, right? They just surrender, and buyers just came back, or the sellers pull out, or buyers just come and eat up every single seller, and it goes to 136, it breaks 135, so it goes to 136, 137, 138, and it starts to push higher. Do you think there could potentially be more upside, right? Could it actually start to push a little bit higher? Well, that could be a high possibility, because for past 2 years, the sellers are just pushing down, and finally they give way. It just shows that buyers are now prepared to break it and take it to a next level just by looking at the prices itself. Does it make sense? All right, and that is where potentially we might see more strength. And that's where potentially a trade could also be taken a little bit more aggressively to write more upside towards maybe the next resistance level, right? So we have drawn the resistance level, so maybe all the way up to around that 155 level. That could be, right? That could be the next upside targets, right? Whereby selling can happen again, just like what we've drawn over here. Now we might see selling happening over here. So just by looking at the prices itself, the highs, the lows, gauging where's the support, where's the resistance level, we could have an understanding of what could happen, right? If this happened, what could you do? Of course, you need to have a plan as well for it, right? This is pretty much how we look at price action. Okay, let's take a look at another stock called Food Empire, one of the stocks that came into my watch list since last year. We've called for it many times to push up, and right now we are taking a little bit of a breather, all right, whereby we are seeing a bit of selling, a bit of resistance, but let's see how does this apply to price action. How can we just look at the prices? As you can see, there are no indicators, no lines whatsoever. It's just the price of the stock itself. How can we just look at this to determine and plan, right? A plan for entry and exit. Where could we potentially try to time our entry to get in as well, right? So first thing first, let's take a look at the prices. You can see, right, since last year, 2023, it was forming, same thing like what I mentioned, higher lows. So we can, essentially this was like a little bit of a support here, a support level, a support level, a support level. Can you see, right? So the support level kind of like got a little bit higher, all right, and higher from here to here and here and here and here and here. Does it make sense? Right? So that is a sign of strength by itself. That's a sign of an uptrend, whereby same thing like I mentioned, buyers are kind of like prepared to buy at higher prices. So it moves up, all right, and it's normal to see some profit taking, comes back down a bit, but as it comes back down, did it like go back down all the way lower than the previous low, or it just went back down a little bit and then buyers came back and start to buy and push it back up again? All right, so when a higher low is found like this, you can see, right, it gets higher. It's same thing like what I mentioned, support is being found at a higher level. So that is a good thing. That's a sign of strength. And based on all these support levels which I have drawn, all right, same thing, we can also draw what we call a trend line, all right, connecting what we call the lows the lows right over here. So you can see this is what we call a upward sloping channel support line. You can try to get the best fit line right over here. Of course, sometimes when prices play out, we get more prices, more days, more months of candlestick playing out. It might change, the line might adjust a little bit, right? But essentially, this is what I have right here. This is what we call an upward sloping channel support line. Just looking at the prices itself, forming higher lows. Of course, from here, as I mentioned, it was a higher low as well. It was a little bit steeper. You can see right over here, and then the slope got a little bit more gentler, right? Whereby the uptrend kind of like, take place a little bit more slower, right? But it still looks good in terms of the uptrend. All right, so that's kind of like the price action just by looking at the lows, right? And what about the level? As I mentioned, we want to look at prices in terms of levels whereby it kind of like hit to that level and sellers comes back and push it down. Are there any resistance level? Are there any levels whereby sellers are just there and we just cannot break above that level? Well, I would say that this level would be maybe around that $1.20 level. You can see, right? So same thing here. Sometimes you might near it, sometimes you might touch it, sometimes you might just be a few percent away from it. But based on this price level, you can see that would be the 120. We went to a high in July last year to about 1.18. This one, we neared it, 1.16, maybe some 1.17. Last week, we hit it there. The high was about 1.19. So very near 120, I would say, right? We hit it there, and as I mentioned, we are in an uptrend, but uptrend doesn't mean we have to just go up every single day, all right? We can also just be consolidating gently in an uptrend below a key resistance level like this 120, right? So it forms higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, but we still cannot get above the 120. 120 is still a very key price level whereby sellers are still there to push it down, right? So what could be a potential trade plan based on this 120, this by looking at the price itself? Well, one of the trade plan could be if it does break this 120. This is what we call like a breakout trading strategy, or this could be what we call an ascending triangle pattern as well. All right, I mean there are many names, but essentially this is all just by looking at the prices. This is what we call an ascending triangle pattern. So it consolidates, forms higher low below the 120, but eventually one day if we were to break the 120, it goes to like 121, 122, 123, 125, and of course it stays above it, right? And we hang above that new resistance, turning to a support level. That would be a good indication whereby buyers are prepared to push it higher. That sellers have given up, all right, for like 1, 2, 3, 4 times for the past 1 year. They have like just sold it back down, but now finally they give up. Buyers have taken control, and it could be a potential or very high probability, all right, of this stock pushing higher. Of course, not like 100% or like 98% or 90% that it will surely go up if it breaks, but there's a very high probability. It's all about probability, right, of this happening if we were to break the 120 level. Of course, we do look at certain things like that as well, but now it's going to look at prices by itself because this is just pretty much on price action, all right, but certain things can actually confirm that move as well. All right, so that could be a trade plan if it does break the 120. Or another trade plan could be if it were to dip to the support level. So as I mentioned, we have formed higher support levels along the way, higher lows, right? So what is the nearest support level? I mean, we don't want to go to like this support, this like quite far away. As I mentioned, right, the support has gone like from here to here to here and here. And maybe what is the nearest support level that we have been holding above over the past 1 or 2 weeks? Well, I think maybe around the $1.10. If I can draw maybe another line right over here, maybe around the $1.10. Yeah, around 110. That has been holding for a while, so it seems like 110 is the nearest support level. So that could be a zone whereby one could also, take a position to get in, and hopefully, the 120 were to give way, and you can write even more upside and maximize your profits more. All right, so this is just by looking at the stock again. Same thing, just by looking at prices, price level, support, resistance, what's the range. Of course, there are certain patterns like ascending triangle pattern and all that, but you want to focus on where we have seen selling, where we have seen buying pressure coming out over the past few weeks or past few months. All right, let's take a look at one more stock called YZJ, Yangzijiang Shipbuilding, listed on the Singapore Exchange. That have been in my watch list for a while, all right, and just by looking at the prices, what can be potentially derived in terms of more upside or more downside from it, right? So let's take a look at it. You can see right now we are about 1.62. All right, let's go back to basics and you can see, right, since like last year or last 2 years, we have been forming same thing like I mentioned, higher lows. Just by looking at the prices, we don't have to draw any moving averages and all that, but just by looking at the lows, it got higher and higher and higher. All right, so pretty much an uptrend, I would say, in the longer term over the past 1-2 years. Of course, in the short term, we did see a little bit of a selling as well, right? It was like pretty much forming this support level around here. We broke down and traded down, and the support level came back again as we consolidated, right? So short term you can move up and down, but in general, what is the longer term direction? What's the longer term trend? All right, so based on this young you can see that we can draw same thing. Since we have found a support here, we can draw another line right here. This is what we call a green line. It's around the $1.40. So I've caught for this stock, right, just about last month. It was just consolidating here above 140, and we were consolidating from 140. You can see it went up, went down, swing up, swing down, and finally pump. All right, so just by looking at the price action, same thing, we can draw a resistance line right maybe over here, right over here. So that would be what we call resistance, because it was pretty much consolidating higher. Pump, we broke down, we consolidated lower. As I mentioned, right, focus on where we have formed highs and lows, get the range, and are we in the same range, or have we gone to a higher range, or have we gone to a lower range, right? If we break the support, we may go lower. For example, this 140 is a support, right? If we break 140, well, we might go to a lower range. If we break, we might go even lower, all right? Just by looking at the current range, and potentially, are we going higher or going lower? All right, so you can see the past 1 week, all right, we have actually managed to kind of break above this 155. So we went above the 155. Obviously, now we're still above it. So that's potentially where we might start to move higher. We have gone on to a higher consolidation phase. Does it make sense? All right, so after breaking this higher consolidation phase, just by looking at the prices, right, where could we potentially hit to? What is the level, right, where buying and selling can come back again? Well, that is where we can look at the past and, as I mentioned, see if there's any resistance level that's being formed. All right, so you can look at the past, maybe about 3-4 months ago, somewhere around September last year, we did have this resistance. You can see right over here, that would be around the 180. We kind of like nearly about 2-3 times, and then sellers came back, and it started to hit lower. All right, I'm not saying that it will surely hit there and what, but if it does hit there, all right, that is where, because we have seen it like 4-5 months ago, that's where selling can potentially happen. So if it does hit there, would it be good to also take some profits, put some money in your pocket? Well, that could be a possibility, right? Just by looking at the prices, just by looking at the previous price action, right? Or you could also hold some in case it might actually, as I say, consolidate, and it can, if it breaks the 180, it might also hit higher, right? That could be possible as well, right? But of course, nobody knows when. So if you're looking to take some profit, then that's fine, all right? But you want to have a plan to know what to do. But essentially, just by looking at the price action by itself, it gives you an idea of where we right now. Are we at a higher phase, potentially moving higher, or what's the next level that you can hit to whereby selling can come back again? So that is pretty much on price action. I've shared with you guys 3 stocks, and just by looking at the prices itself, without any lines, without any moving averages or trailing indicators and all that, just by looking at the price, we can deduce if the stock is moving up or down and what can we potentially do with it. So I hope you like this video, guys. If you like it, go ahead and give me a like, smash the subscribe button as well. That would really help out the channel, right? And as I mentioned, right, if you want to do certain things like indicators or some trend indicators like moving averages and all that, and some other things to affirm that move in that direction that you have drawn out your plan, that could help as well in terms of a higher probability. It could push up the probability a little bit more. All right, so I don't have time to cover this in this video, but if you want to find out a little bit more on how we look at it in perspective, the entire strategy, I call this one good trend strategy. All right, you can attend one of those free webinar or web class that we're still running. Click on the link below this video. I'll place the link there. Click on it, register for this webinar, and as well, I'll share with you a little bit on the strategy, one good trend strategy, and we look at many things, where could be potentially time or entry to get in, to get out, and how we also have a software, a very simple software, what we call a system as well, to guide us, to alert us on stocks like this, and to guide us on entry and also exit. So most people think about just buying and getting in and all that, but what about getting out, right? You want to know when to get out as well, all right? That's how a software can help you. So you can find a little bit more, all right? Click on the link below, register for this free webinar, and I'll see you soon. Take care.